In the summer of 2024, England burned. Not metaphorically. Cars were set on fire. Immigrant neighborhoods were attacked. Thousands of people took to the streets convinced their country was being taken from them. And they weren't entirely wrong, just about who was doing the taking. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about something that nobody in power wants to say out loud. Western societies are being slowly strangled by the people who are supposed to be running them. And the young, wherever you live, are paying the price. Here's the setup. After the pandemic, immigration into Western countries spiked dramatically. Britain, France, Germany, Australia, Canada all saw surges in people arriving from outside Europe, outside the traditional sending countries. At the same time, inflation went up, housing became unaffordable, jobs became harder to find, and people who were already struggling started looking around for someone to blame. The immigrants were right there, visible, different, easy to point at. But let's look more carefully at what was actually happening, because the story is more disturbing than the one being told at the protests. Take Canada. Over the last decade, Canada opened its doors to unprecedented numbers of immigrants, including hundreds of thousands of Indian students on visas, living 8 to a room, lining up for hours to apply for minimum wage restaurant jobs. Housing prices went through the roof, but here's the thing. While immigration was going up, housing construction stayed flat, completely flat. The government was watching both numbers. They knew, so why didn't they build? Because the people who already owned homes, older Canadians, the property-owning class, were getting richer every time a new immigrant arrived and competed for the same limited supply of apartments. Keep supply flat, poor in demand, watch values soar. The homeowners get wealthy. The young, immigrant and native-born alike get squeezed. And the government, run by and answerable to people who own property, keeps calling this a success. That's not incompetence, that's a policy choice. Now let's talk about something even darker. About 10 years ago, Canada introduced something called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying. The idea was compassionate. People with terminal illness, people in severe pain, people with no quality of life left should have the right to die with dignity. That sounds reasonable. But then something changed. The number of approved euthanasia cases went from roughly 1,000 a year to 10,000 in just 5 years. The waiting period before approval dropped to as little as 10 days. And when you look at who is dying, it's predominantly poor people. People with cancer, expensive to treat, not always terminal, being quietly encouraged toward the exit. The two most common reasons people give for choosing to die: they can't engage in meaningful activities anymore. Daily tasks have become difficult, not terminal disease, not unbearable physical agony, inconvenience, financial burden, loss of dignity that nobody around them is willing to support. When a society starts helping its poor and sick die faster than it helps them live better, something has gone very wrong in its priorities. Here's the turning point. These things, the riots about immigration, the housing crisis, the euthanasia numbers, the inflation, all connect to a single root cause. The people making decisions in Western countries are older. They own property. They benefit from the financial system. They are not going to fix the housing market because they are the housing market. They are not going to invest in young people's futures because they are extracting those futures as capital right now. And the tension you're seeing on the streets, that's what happens when young people, whether they were born there or arrived last year, figure out that the game was never designed for them to win. The word for this is gerontocracy, rule by the old. Not because old people are evil, but because when you let any group hold power long enough without accountability, they will naturally shape the world to preserve their position. And everyone outside that position pays for it. The question is, what comes next? History suggests the answer isn't comfortable, but the first step is at least seeing the problem clearly. And right now, very few people in power want you to do